Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm glad you're here this morning. We have a special guest here in the studio. But first, let's take a look at our weather brought to us by Gulf Coast Air Conditioning, Drew Pollard and his hard-working crew. They're working hard in this heat, taking care of our everyday comfort needs. High today, 100 here on the coast, and the heat index inland is just like 110 and 111. It's just unmercifully hot. So I again advise maybe not doing a lot of outdoor stuff today. Water temperature is up to right at 90 degrees off the end of the city pier out there at the beach. Okay, it's hot. The water temperature is hot in the Gulf and the Bay. Our river reading is brought to us by Panama City, Coca-Cola. Let's look at the Apalachicola Bluntstown. This morning, its reading is dropping out a little bit. It's down to below 3 foot at a 2.6. The Choctawhatchee Caryville, it's at a 1.8. Both rivers getting extremely low, so be careful on there. Our tide chart, we had neap tides yesterday. Our tide chart brought to us by Kenton Forest Lawn here on 23rd Street. We're looking at a pretty decent tide today, high about 2:12 a.m. and low about 2:30 p.m. Right, a 12-hour sweep right there. The wind direction will be coming out of east about 9. We've had a pretty strong wind, good breeze to sort of cool things off, but folks, it is extremely hot, so be careful out there. Don't get overheated, and stay in the shade as much as you can. Let's take a break. We'll come back with our special guest. Welcome back, folks, and welcome our special guest, Senator Dave Trumbull. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Winston.
Listen, we've been talking a while, and he promised me, I'm just going to close up, we're going to talk. You promised me a good while ago you were going to come on the show, but when you're representative, you were going to come on the show.
Yes, sir. You've been after me for a little while, but it's good to be here today.
I pinned him down last week, and I got him about a week moment. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Listen, a lot of y'all know he's District 2, our senator, freshman senator this year, and fortunately I got to go over to Tallahassee and watch him one day operating. He was right up there in our second row and doing good things. But let's go back. Bay High School graduate.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's talk about the Trumbull family, because we're talking about family businesses and doing outdoor stuff. And tell about how Culligan Water started.
So my great-grandfather was a guy from Chicago, the Chicago, Illinois area.
Yep.
And he got hooked up with a guy named Emmett Culligan, and they started doing water conditioning up there, and then him and a few other folks that were a part of that group kind of broke up. And for some reason, there was some family here, but he chose Panama City. So
Yep.
My great-grandfather moved here to open up Culligan Water on 911 Harrison Avenue.
Oh my goodness.
And the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. And then just back then, just had bottled water and just moved it around. How did they do it early?
No, so early on, it was just water conditioning.
Okay.
And to kind of hear the stories, obviously I wasn't around then, but to hear the stories about how they would troubleshoot a water softener, they would write a letter to Culligan, send it to Chicago, try to get some information, bring it back. So it would take a little while to get that, to get something fixed, but that was the main, the main business was water conditioning, and then bottled water came around back, in the early '90s is when my dad actually started the bottled water side of the business.
That's interesting. I never knew that early history of that. So your great-granddad was friends with the Culligan guy. So
Yes, sir.
They could have named it Trumbull Culligan back then, couldn't they?
Could have been, yeah.
But that's a cool story. And it's been a family business. And so you went to Bay High School.
Yes, sir. I went to Bay. My wife went to Bay. It was a great thing for my father when I went to Bay High, because when I couldn't drive, I would get dropped off at school, and then I would walk across the street to Culligan and work in the plant. Yeah, but went there, and then I went to Auburn for college and studied entrepreneurship and family business. I knew I wanted to come back and work in the business.
Yeah.
Politics wasn't really something I was thinking about by any stretch.
That's what I was going to ask you later on down, but you never even thought about that growing up and going to college, did you?
No, sir. No, I didn't. In fact, it wasn't until after I'd graduated and moved home and started working did I even have thought about
Yeah.
getting into politics.
So you went to work for the family business, and I know your family, y'all like to fish and all, y'all do outdoor stuff and the hunt and all, but so you got to do some of that along the line growing up?
Oh yeah, yes sir. Yeah, I remember my dad and I about 10, 15 years ago made a decision, do we want to be good at fishing or good at golf? Well, I'm a terrible golfer and I'm not a great fisherman, but I'd much rather do that than I would hit a golf ball.
I know you got some pictures we're going to show later, but when you went to work for the family business, you graduated from Auburn and then came straight here and went back to work.
Yeah, yes sir. Graduated from Auburn in 2011, got married in October of 2011, started working shortly after that in the family business. And then I ran our Tallahassee office, which is actually how I even came to being interested in politics in Tallahassee. I was running that office, and I was commuting back and forth, but every day was kind of tough, Monday through Friday. So I rented a room in Jimmy Petronis's apartment when he was the house member.
Okay.
And he was terming out. It was a really good time, and we had this very interesting thing happen with the Department of Agriculture audit. They came and did an inspection of our bottled water plant.
Yeah.
And honestly, I got super frustrated with the findings. Like one example was we had a water hose that was coiled up and laid on the ground instead of hung up on the wall, and they wrote us up for that. We had a plastic sink instead of a stainless steel sink, and they wrote us up for that.
Government.
Yes, yeah. So I decided at that point that I was going to run for office.
No kidding.
Yes, sir.
I never knew that story either. I'm learning all kinds of things about you, Jay. I thought I knew you, but listen, there's always some kind of inspiration like that that sort of clicks and say, I can help.
Exactly.
And that's what happened there.
Yes, sir.
Well, did y'all pass inspection or?
We did, yeah. But
I still see water out there, so I guess y'all passed.
we did, yes, sir.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Come back with Senator Jay Trumbull. Okay, welcome back. So glad to have our Senator Jay Trumbull from District 2, and we're just talking. It's always good to have. We've talked about this a lot on the show. Our elected officials. It's so good to get as many outdoors people in there as we can, from county commissioner to city commissioner to all different levels. And we do here in the Panhandle have a lot of that, but it's not like that statewide, is it?
No, sir, it's not.
But we're gonna have to work on that. But anyway. Family, you do some fishing and all, and his little boy, you tried to talk him.
I did. I tried to get him to come on the show this morning, but I said, hey, we're going to go on TV and we're going to talk about fishing. He goes, no, I'd rather go fishing. So I'm super lucky. I mean, the boy is absolutely eaten up with the idea of being outside fishing and hunting. He is on our dock at least once a day,
awesome.
Trying to catch a crab or catch a trout. So it's a real blessing. I joked with my wife. I said, I think we've created a little bit of a monster, but it's the thing that he wants to do, and it's a great thing to be able to do together.
And what's his name? How old is he?
So he's the third. So Jay Trumbull the third, but we call him Trip.
Trip.
He's four. I've got two other kids: a 6-year-old girl named Merritt and a 1-year-old little girl named Emery. And and Merritt's not eat up with the fishing bug as much as her brother is, but it's a great time to be in our household. It's crazy and it's mayhem most of the time, but it's a good time to be alive for sure.
That's cool. Let's show this picture of Trip right here. Tell us what's going on.
So he and I fished a tournament a couple of weekends ago for his school. It's a little benefit tournament for the school he goes to in town. And he caught that trout, and he placed second with that trout, and then he also placed second in redfish number of spots. So super exciting for him to be able to.
That just pumps him up even more.
Yeah. But the way we do it, we wade fish.
Look at this.
And so I just pulled him behind me, had our live bait stuck in a basket, and had him in a float, so it worked out pretty well. And he was a trooper about it. We fished really hard. The water temperature's been so hot, so trying to catch good size fish.
We have a live bait in there?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Folks, we talk about this on the show a lot, about just getting out there waiting. I mean, look at, you got a couple of things you don't cost a lot, and just get out there. There's shoreline right there. This is beginning fishing.
Yes.
101, and that's great. What is this story?
So this was one of those a fish we did not catch. A friend of ours caught this fish at the same tournament, and the boys that caught it, that were on the boat, said that fish is as big as Trip, and they yelled at him, said, "Trip, come over here and lay down next to this fish," which is a pretty good sized black drum. I hadn't seen many that size before.
That is huge. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, there you go. That's where he won second in the trout and number of redfish.
That big old smile on his face.
Yeah.
Got 2 trophies.
Yep.
And a lot of kids fishing that. And
it's I love that little tournament. It's been around for 20 plus years.
Is that the Holding the Tippity fundraiser, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And they've got what I appreciate about it is they've got a kids division and obviously an adult division. So it was fun to be able to fish with.
So I saw on Facebook some of the posting and all of that tournament. Everybody had a good time.
Yeah.
So, well, now as he also does some freshwater fishing with you and saltwater.
Yeah, we mostly saltwater fish, but we've got a lake that we fish at pretty regularly, and try to catch bass and brim. There's not significantly sized bass in there, but it's a good time.
Well, you're fortunate to have a family like that loves the outdoors. I know you grew up in it, and it's just going to continue. That's some good quality time.
It is.
That's family time that you just. We'll talk about it again all the time about quality time that is. Do you, in your job, when is your off season? Is it now or?
Currently, yes, sir. So I spend about 6 months out of the year in Tallahassee, whether that's through committee weeks or session.
Okay.
And session changes. The start date changes from year to year depending on whether or not it's an election year. So, as an example, 2023 session started in March. But 2024 session will start in January. So committee weeks will start ramping up here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And then session will start this upcoming January after the 1st. So, it's a pretty quick turnaround from when session ended. But the good news is you're out by, if things go smoothly, you're out by March of next year.
So you take your family vacations and stuff about right when school is out. Is that y'all try to do that?
We do, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Although we last Friday was the first time since Brittany and I have had kids where we had all 3 of them in school. Emery, our little 1-year-old's in preschool, and Merritt and Tripp were obviously in school. So we were walking out of the school, and some of our friends, in fact, the people that caught that black drum said, "You've graduated." I said, "Yeah, it feels pretty good to graduate."
Yeah, don't blink twice because soon you have a Brittany being established. No, it's empty nest syndrome.
I know. We've got a few years before that.
You've got a long way to go, but enjoy every bit of it. So I know we're talking about going to Tallahassee and doing different things, but what is your biggest challenge trying to balance family life and political life and all, just trying to keep it balanced and everything?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I really appreciate is that Brittany is incredibly intentional about trying to keep the kids involved in what we do in Tallahassee. So they'll come over a good bit, but I've learned to say no, which is a good thing, and especially in the off season, like when session's not in, the ability just to come home at 5:30 in the afternoon after work and just be home with the family and be home on the weekends has been very nice, and something that I've been elected now for almost 8 years, and I've learned a lot on how to manage that give and take.
Yeah. Well, come to think of it, when I was over there that day in Tallahassee, your wife and kids were up there. I saw these kids running down the hall, and I said, "What do they do? They're in session." It was Jay Trumbull's kids.
Yeah.
Well, they were cute as they could be. I thought to myself then, I hadn't talked to you yet. I said, "How cool is that to have the senator, to have the kids, the family right here during the day?" Mm-hmm. That was really cool.
It is cool. In fact, we steal one of my aides' offices and put a pack and play. One of those crib deals, and we put my daughter in there to take naps in the middle of the day, which works out pretty well.
Well, that's great. That's great. Okay, we're going to take our final break and come back with our Senator Jay Trumbull. Be right back. Okay, welcome back. Always glad to have our special guests and all, especially when they're outdoorsmen and family guys and all, like Jay Trumbull is, and his family's been here. How many generations have y'all been in that business?
This will be our fifth generation. Trip is our fifth, or my kids are the fifth.
You just don't see that very often, and it's the kind of business that just helps your fellow man. Your clean water.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we used to take that for granted.
Yeah.
But it's not anymore. I know our fish camp down at Howard Creek, they come down there and change the filter and all on that on a regular basis. It's good because we haven't had one of those shallow wells.
Yes.
And sometimes it's not as clear as it should be.
No, sir.
Let's quickly take a look at our fishing game time brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers in Port St. Joe. Our time today, 4:39 to 6:39 this morning, and this afternoon, 5:03 to 7:03. Okay, we don't often get to talk to our lawmakers, so I'm going to take full advantage of it. And when you first went to Tallahassee, what was your biggest eye opener, I guess, when you got over there, you as a representative?
Yeah.
And you look around, and because I grew up in Quincy, so we spent some time in Tallahassee, and I've been to the legislature and Senate off and on, growing up a lot.
So I think the thing that surprised, there were a couple of things that surprised me. Number one was what you see on TV is not how people act in Tallahassee, meaning that you can disagree and have ideas that are totally different than some other person in a different part of the state, but you don't see people yelling at each other and calling each other names like you do on C-SPAN in D.C. So that was an eye opener.
Yeah.
The other thing, and I knew this inherently, but I didn't fully appreciate it honestly until Hurricane Michael hit, and is that there are only 8 members of the legislature between the House and the Senate. So there's 120 members of the legislature between the House and Senate. There are only 8 that live in the Central Time Zone.
Whoa.
And so you think about it, that's 2 senators and 6 representatives.
Yeah.
And so what that means is, the way a better way to kind of understand that is there are close to 35 members of the legislature just in Miami-Dade County alone.
Wow.
So you think about that and you think, my goodness, how in the world are we going to have enough representation if a lot of the focus is in South and Central Florida?
Yeah.
But the cool thing, and the thing that I really appreciate, is that everybody in the Panhandle, and that includes Jason Shope and Corey Simon that represent an area to the east. So really, you could say 10 members of the legislature. But we really work well together, and you kind of have to because lots of folks forget that we're up here.
That's sort of how I sort of envision things when I was watching them that day, all working. They were all over the place, and here we are over here. The challenge for outdoorsmen, of course, is we always like to get as much land as we can. And over the years, lawmakers and all, we purchased land for the state and all. That's been a good deal. And do you see anything in the future about us acquiring more land?
Yes, I do. And we have lots of resources in the state budget to be able to acquire state lands. I'll tell you one thing that was really interesting that popped up this session. We are seeing in other parts of the country in the Northwest where states like that are trying to put in their constitution to ban hunting and fishing.
Holy cow.
So what we did in Florida, which I'm very excited about, and it will be on the next ballot for a ballot initiative to enshrine hunting and fishing in the state of Florida, saying that it is a natural right and a right of a Floridian to be able to do so. You think about that, it's like, well, that's silly. Why would you need to enshrine something like that? But what you're seeing is that folks believe that it's another opportunity for people to tamper the amount of time they have outdoors, be able to hunt and fish, and also has to do with gun rights, I think, in the upper Northwest. But in Florida, it's exciting to be able to see that we're not going to stand for stuff like that.
Who would have ever thought we'd got to that point in time where we'd have to even talk about something like that, much less come up with some legislation. And in your family's example of how good the outdoors is for just family life and doing things as a family. So we got about a couple minutes left. when you get back to Tallahassee, what would be you think this year's biggest challenge for your next session? What do you think?
So I mean, I think a lot of it will depend on how much what the resources coming into the state look like.
Okay.
We have seen, over the last 3.5 years, an incredible influx in people and an incredible influx in resources that have come into the state. And so making sure that we're good stewards of those dollars, obviously putting dollars away for future legislatures and, for a rainy day fund. I mean, forever, there was just, which sounds like a lot of money, $3 billion in reserves.
Mm-hmm.
$3 billion in a $100 billion budget's not a lot.
Yeah.
Now we're at $20+ billion in reserves, so we've got plenty of money. Thankfully, I don't know if you saw, the rating agency Fitch just downgraded the federal government's bond rating, but Florida's bond rating is still a AAA bond. And so it's because of decisions like that that we've made, I think, to be fiscally responsible, that has made us be in a really good position. But I think, moving forward, we've got to figure out how to affect the workforce crisis. We are struggling to find quality workers in our state. We're struggling to find quality teachers in our state. And so making it more attractive for a teacher to come here, and that includes making sure that they have quality pay, and reducing the amount of stress that's on that teacher to just force a test after test after test. The state just changed to progress monitoring not too long ago, and
well, we've got a lot of good things going though. I know our Florida, that was all valid points, and I agree 100%. We have a great state park system.
Oh yes,
Florida state parks, and we all take advantage of that. And we've got good property here, and we take care of our shoreline. So we've got a lot of good things going, but we have to have outdoorsmen as conscientious like this in Tallahassee helping out with that. So we run out of time. I told you we would.
Yeah, okay. Well,
Thank
good.
you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Senator.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks. Thank y'all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. We want to elect people like this, okay? Y'all do something good today for your fellow man. Have a great day, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.